one of the things that Netflix is going to run into, this is just prediction with this strategy of going into the ad supported tier, is you're going to have a subscriber slide. People like me who honestly can't justify the usage by the price currently is going to see this as an opportunity to say, all right, do I want the privilege of being able to go into Netflix at any given time and not having to, okay, resubscribe when a show I like comes on? Sure. Let me go down to this bottom tier. But my usage is going to remain the same. If you keep dropping the same kind of content that is non inspiring, my usage would be the same. And so, what's going to happen on the subscriber side is not going to be an ROI. Yeah, you have this many users on this ad supported tier, but they're not actually reaching me, right? What's the likelihood that you're going to have a captive audience that you're going to be able to build in this kind of user experience where you can guarantee that eyeballs are watching this ad and responding to this ad, especially if a lot of people might just subscribe or slide down just to keep access to Netflix? Unfortunately, I think you're right about the point that Netflix doesn't have Marvel like franchise. They unfortunately bought themselves that ticket with the way they entered the market. They were a distribution company. They weren't IP in the beginning. And when they created this new behavior of nonlinear TV, they created an insatiable appetite for content. The reason why Disney can create these franchises is because they take the time to go ahead and create these things. These things take time. HBO is another one where your subscription into HBO is kind of a bet that they are doing what it takes to create really good stories that you would want to be a part of because they don't release things all at once. They can buy themselves that time to go ahead and keep creating. Netflix never bought themselves that time. They had to just keep releasing content, and for them, growth meant more and more niche categories. So then they capture more and more niche groups of people, but never deeply penetrate any one. I think we're getting into the point where Netflix content has like a Netflix sheen on it, kind of like Lifetime movies do. We're getting into that. And that's because they've never really been able
It
to
is Lifetime
hone.
movies. And it also explains why Netflix has not been able to land those hits. Because ultimately, we're talking about hits, and hits come from people, right? People have to have ideas. And the thing is, even though Netflix pays more than just about anyone, folks still feel like the most important thing is to get a show on NBC, to get a show on ABC, to get a Disney movie made, to get a even MGM movie made, because those are the organizations that they most admire. They want to be a part of the cool kids club, and Netflix, while they have been able to purchase their way into the front door, folks still making them go through the back door. I think that that's characteristic of why even when The Rock comes over and does a big blockbuster movie with Netflix, it's so poor compared to everything else that he creates. There's a lot less talent who's interested in doing Netflix exclusive content. Until that changes, they're always going to have this problem where they're not going to be able to create the level of content that's sticky, that's interesting, that's compelling, that makes people want to spend top dollar. Because ultimately, that should be what they really want to do, is figure out how to get people to spend as much money as possible on this content. And you can't do that without talent. Talent's the number one differentiator there. So even to that point, Netflix has scaled back on some of its technology efforts and things like that. That made sense to me. I was like, sure, take that back. It makes sense to me why you want to get into gaming. It makes sense to me why you probably will get into podcasting, because you need to create these content ecosystems that are sticky, that makes people feel like it's worth it to pay those prices. I just don't think that they've gotten there yet. And I also was reading an article about how much these ads have to cost in order for Netflix to essentially break even. And it was something like $8. Like, they need to have $8 per subscriber for an ad. And I was just like, wow, that's a very, very large amount for an ad. So for content, like, it's probably one of the premier, like, before Facebook started to have its tracking issues, it was one of the most expensive sources out there. And that's like $3, $4, $5 a subscriber or whatever. So to be more than Facebook, and Facebook used to be the largest, seems like it's asking a lot. Especially considering you and I are sitting here right now saying we're two people who subscribe. And even if we went down to the ad tier, we would be people who don't ever log in to actually watch the shows. So, like, how do you actually justify that cost?